The sun was setting over the Mediterranean when the call came in. I was at our outpost in Barcelona, Spain, reviewing mission reports when Alex's voice crackled through the secure line. Alex was our contact, a reliable source of intel, and the lifeline for our covert operations. His tone was grave, even for him. "Jack, we have a situation. You need to gather the team immediately," he said. There was no room for questions. I knew that tone. It meant trouble of the highest order. Gathering the team was no small feat. Ryan and Ethan, known as the Twisted Twins, were in the midst of a complex hacking operation. They were the tech wizards of our unit, capable of breaking into any system. Marcus, or Titan as we called him, was out back, using his immense strength to lift weights that would crush an ordinary man. And Sanchez, our specialist in poisons, sabotage, and small arms, was meticulously cleaning her weaponry. Each one was indispensable, and together we formed an elite unit that could tackle the most dangerous missions. Once everyone was assembled in the briefing room, Alex's face appeared on the screen, framed by the static that comes with secure transmissions. He wasted no time. "Lieutenant Brian Clark, a rogue Navy SEAL, has gone off the grid. He's been linked to a series of brutal killings across Europe. But here's the kicker. He's under the control of a parasitic, octopus-like creature." The room fell silent. We had faced many threats before, but this was new. Alex continued, detailing the carnage Clark had left in his wake. Victims found in coastal towns, their bodies mutilated in ways that suggested something far more sinister than a mere human could achieve. The creature controlling Clark was ancient, parasitic, and deadly. Our mission was clear. Track down Clark and neutralize both him and the creature. The stakes couldn't have been higher. The first step was investigating the crime scenes in Barcelona and other coastal towns. Each scene painted a gruesome picture. The victims' bodies bore marks of intense struggle, and the places themselves felt tainted by the violence that had occurred. Ryan and Ethan set up a mobile command center, tapping into local surveillance and databases to gather any digital trail Clark might have left. Their fingers flew over keyboards, their eyes scanning lines of code faster than I could follow. Meanwhile, Marcus and I scored the physical locations. His strength was invaluable, not just in combat, but in moving obstacles and breaking through barriers that blocked our search. We found traces of the parasitic creature's presence, a slimy residue that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. It was Sanchez, with her keen eye and knowledge of toxins, who identified it as a secretion of the creature. She carefully collected samples for analysis. Our investigation led us to a tip-off about a recent killing in Ibiza that matched Clark's modus operandi. The team was on high alert. Ibiza, known for its nightlife and scenic beauty, had turned into a hunting ground. We arrived under the cover of darkness, splitting into smaller units to cover more ground. The twins took to their surveillance roles, scanning the streets and monitoring local communications. Marcus and Titan provided the muscle, ready to respond to any threat. Sanchez and I moved together through the winding streets of Ibiza. There was a tension in the air, an undercurrent of fear that was almost palpable. The locals spoke in hushed tones about the recent events, their eyes darting nervously. We followed the trail, piecing together the movements of our prey. Every step brought us closer to the confrontation we knew was inevitable. The ambush came suddenly. Clark, more feral and dangerous than ever, attacked with the precision of a trained SEAL, but with the savagery of the creature controlling him. We fought back with everything we had. Bullets flew, and the narrow streets echoed with the sounds of combat. Ryan and Ethan's digital support was crucial, directing us through the chaos and identifying potential escape routes for Clark. Despite our best efforts, we suffered significant casualties. The loss of our comrades hit hard. Back in Barcelona, we regrouped and licked our wounds. The reinforcements from the SEAL unit arrived, bringing fresh strength and determination. Rusty, O'Neill, Parker, Connor, Jackson, and Murphy were seasoned warriors, ready to join the hunt. We briefed them on the situation, sharing the details of our encounters and the nature of the parasitic threat. There was no room for doubt or hesitation. As we planned our next move, The tension among us was palpable. The weight of our mission bore heavily on our shoulders. Yet, amidst the preparations and strategizing, a bond was forming between Sanchez and me. We had always respected each other's skills, but now, in the face of such overwhelming odds, we found solace in each other's presence. It was a silent understanding, a shared determination to see this mission through. Our next lead pointed us towards the Sahara Desert, specifically the enigmatic Richet structure. It was there that we believed Clark and the creature were headed. The journey ahead was fraught with danger, but our resolve was unshakable. We were ready to face whatever horrors awaited us in the desert, driven by a singular purpose: to stop Clark and the parasitic threat before it could claim more lives. The sun had long set by the time our preparations were complete. We stood together, a united front against the encroaching darkness. The mission was clear, and there was no turning back. As we moved out, I couldn't help but feel a surge of determination. We were more than just a team. We were a family, bound by our shared duty and the unbreakable bond of warriors. The hunt was on, and we would not rest until the threat was neutralized. Ibiza's nightlife was in full swing when we arrived, but the vibrant atmosphere was a stark contrast to the grim mission at hand. We moved like shadows through the crowded streets, each of us acutely aware that danger lurked around every corner. The recent murder had left the town on edge, with whispers of the monstrous killer spreading like wildfire among the locals. Our intel suggested Clark was still on the island, and we had to find him before he struck again. The Twisted Twins, Ryan and Ethan, had set up a command post in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. Their array of laptops and surveillance equipment hummed with activity as they monitored every camera feed and hacked into local networks. "We got eyes on the main hotspots," Ryan said, his fingers flying over the keyboard. "If Clark is here, we'll find him." Meanwhile, Marcus and I were on foot, patrolling the less populated areas where Clark might be hiding. The quiet alleys and dimly lit back streets provided the perfect cover for someone like him. Sanchez was with us, her sharp eyes scanning for any signs of movement. Her skills in lockpicking and sabotage had already proven invaluable, and I trusted her instincts implicitly. Together, we formed a formidable trio, ready to confront whatever came our way. The ambush came without warning. One moment, the street was empty. The next, Clark emerged from the shadows, his eyes wild, and his movements unnaturally fast. The parasitic creature had taken a firm hold of him, amplifying his already formidable SEAL training. We barely had time to react as he lunged at us, a blur of deadly precision. Marcus was the first to engage, his massive frame intercepting Clark with a bone-crunching tackle. The two titans clashed in a brutal display of strength, each blow resonating through the narrow alley. Sanchez and I provided cover, our weapons trained on Clark as we looked for an opening. The creature's influence made him unpredictable, and every second counted. Ryan and Ethan's voices crackled through our earpieces, providing real-time updates. "We've got movement on the west side," Ethan said. "Backup is on the way. Hold your position." Their support was crucial, guiding us through the chaos and ensuring we weren't caught off guard. But even with their help, the fight was far from over. Clark's strength was overwhelming. He threw Marcus aside with a force that would have broken a lesser man. Sanchez fired a precise shot, aiming for the creature attached to Clark, but he moved too quickly, dodging the bullet by a hair's breadth. It was clear we were dealing with more than just a rogue soldier. This was a monster, both human and something else entirely. I knew we had to end this quickly. Drawing on my training, I moved in close, engaging Clark in hand-to-hand combat. Every punch and kick was met with an equally brutal counterattack. The creature's influence made him stronger, faster, but I had experience on my side. With a final, desperate effort, I managed to disarm him, delivering a blow that sent him reeling. Just as it seemed we had the upper hand, Clark unleashed a primal scream, and more creatures emerged from the shadows. These parasitic horrors were smaller but no less deadly, their tentacles writhing as they attacked. The situation had gone from bad to worse. and we were outnumbered. Ryan and Ethan's backup arrived just in time. Rusty, O'Neill, Parker, Connor, Jackson, and Murphy charged into the fray, their coordinated assault pushing back the creatures. The combined firepower of our units was enough to turn the tide, but not without cost. Several of our team members were injured, and the creatures fought with a ferocity that was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. In the chaos, Clark managed to escape, retreating into the labyrinthine streets of Ibiza. We had driven him back, but the cost was high. We regrouped at the command post, treating our wounded and reassessing our strategy. The ambush had shown us just how dangerous Clark and his parasitic controller could be. We couldn't afford another encounter like this. Back in Barcelona, the mood was somber as we licked our wounds and counted our losses. The arrival of the SEAL unit brought a renewed sense of determination. Rusty and O'Neill were seasoned warriors, their experience invaluable in planning our next steps. Parker and Connor, expert snipers, and Jackson and Murphy, heavy hitters, rounded out our reinforced team. We briefed the SEALs on everything we knew about Clark and the creature, sharing the grim details of our encounters. The parasitic threat was unlike anything we had faced before, and the stakes were higher than ever. But with the SEALs by our side, we felt a renewed sense of purpose. We were ready to continue the hunt, driven by the need to stop Clark and the creature before they could wreak more havoc. As we prepared for the next phase of our mission, the bond between Sanchez and me grew stronger. The shared danger and mutual respect forged a connection that went beyond professional camaraderie. We both knew that the road ahead would be fraught with peril, but we were ready to face it together. The hunt for Clark was far from over, and we would not rest until the threat was neutralized. The desert awaited, and with it, the answers we sought and the challenges we had yet to overcome. The journey to the Sahara was unlike any mission I had ever undertaken. We flew from Barcelona to the nearest airstrip, then drove for hours through the desert's harsh, unforgiving landscape. The heat was relentless, sapping our strength and testing our endurance. The horizon seemed endless, a vast expanse of sand stretching out in every direction. But we had a mission, and no amount of heat or fatigue would deter us. The Richet structure, known as the Eye of the Sahara, was our destination. This ancient, circular formation had long been a subject of fascination for geologists and archaeologists alike. Now, it was our battleground. Our intel suggested that Clark and the parasitic creature were headed there, possibly to some hidden facility connected to the legends of Atlantis. As we approached, the enormity of the structure became clear, its concentric rings rising from the desert floor like the remnants of some ancient, otherworldly city. Setting up our base of operations near the edge of the Richet structure, we worked quickly to secure the area. Ryan and Ethan established a perimeter of surveillance equipment, their eyes glued to the monitors for any sign of movement. Marcus, ever the pillar of strength, helped erect our tents and fortify our position. Sanchez and I reviewed our plan, going over every detail to ensure we were ready for whatever awaited us. As night fell, the desert transformed. The oppressive heat gave way to a chilling cold, and the stars overhead seemed brighter, more numerous than I had ever seen. The silence was profound, broken only by the occasional rustle of the wind through the sand. It was in this eerie stillness that we made our final preparations. The SEAL team members, Rusty, O'Neill, Parker, Connor, Jackson, and Murphy, were seasoned professionals, each man fully aware of the dangers we faced. Together, we formed a formidable force, ready to confront Clark and the parasitic creature head-on. The entrance to the underground facility was hidden beneath a layer of sand and rock, just as our intel had indicated. Sanchez, with her unparalleled skills in lockpicking, worked quickly to uncover and disable the security mechanisms guarding the entrance. Marcus used his immense strength to shift the heavy stone covering, revealing a dark, narrow passage leading down into the depths of the earth. As we descended, the air grew cooler, the walls lined with ancient symbols that seemed to glow faintly in the dim light of our flashlights. The facility itself was a labyrinth of corridors and chambers, each filled with relics and artifacts from a bygone era. It was clear that this place had once been of great importance, possibly even a hub of Atlantis itself. Ryan and Ethan tapped into the facility's old systems, their screens flickering to life with schematics and data. "This place is a treasure trove," Ryan whispered, his eyes wide with awe. But we couldn't afford to be distracted. Our primary objective was to find Clark and neutralize the parasitic threat. It didn't take long for the creatures to find us. Smaller than the one controlling Clark, but no less deadly, these parasitic horrors emerged from the shadows, their tentacles reaching out with terrifying speed. We fought back with everything we had. The Twisted Twins provided sniper cover, picking off the creatures with deadly accuracy. Marcus and I took the brunt of the assault, using our combined strength to fend off the relentless attacks. Sanchez moved with lethal grace, her small arms and poison-tipped weapons dispatching the parasites with precision. The deeper we went, the more aggressive the creatures became. It was as if they were defending something, some dark secret hidden within the facility. The air grew thick with tension as we navigated the maze-like corridors, every shadow a potential threat. My internal conflict intensified with each step. The loss of our comrades weighed heavily on my mind, and the burden of leadership felt almost unbearable. But Sanchez was there, her unwavering presence a constant source of strength. In a vast chamber at the heart of the facility, we found what we had been searching for. Clark stood at the center, the parasitic creature fully integrated with his body, its tentacles wrapping around him like a grotesque suit of armor. His eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and his movements were unnervingly fluid. "Welcome," he said, his voice distorted by the creature's influence. "I've been expecting you." The battle that followed was the most intense of my life. Clark and the parasitic creatures fought with a ferocity that defied belief. The SEAL team members held their ground, their coordinated efforts pushing back the tide of horrors. Rusty and O'Neill, with their expert marksmanship, provided crucial cover fire. Jackson and Murphy, heavy hitters both, used their brute force to keep the creatures at bay. But it was clear that this would be a fight to the death. As the battle raged, I found myself face to face with Clark. The parasitic creature had amplified his strength and speed, making him a nearly unstoppable force. We clashed in a brutal hand-to-hand combat, each of us pushing the other to the limit. Sanchez was there, her presence a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. Together, we managed to gain the upper hand, delivering blow after blow until Clark began to falter. In a final, desperate effort, I delivered a strike that sent Clark reeling. Sanchez moved in, using her expertise in poisons to deliver the killing blow to the parasitic creature. As Clark fell, the remaining creatures shrieked and writhed, their connection to their master severed. We stood victorious, but the cost had been high. We had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, our bond as a team unbreakable. With the threat neutralized, we secured the facility and began the task of cataloging the artifacts and data we had found. There was much to learn, and the implications of our discovery were profound. But for now, we allowed ourselves a moment of respite, knowing that we had accomplished our mission. The desert outside was still and quiet, the stars above bearing silent witness to our triumph. The road ahead would be long and fraught with danger, but we were ready to face it together. The further we delved into the underground facility, the more the air seemed to thicken with an oppressive weight. Every corner, every shadow, felt like it was hiding some ancient malevolence. The corridors twisted and turned, a labyrinth of stone and darkness that seemed to echo with the whispers of forgotten civilizations. We were deep in the heart of darkness, and the stakes had never been higher. Our initial skirmishes with the parasitic creatures had been brutal, but it was clear we had only scratched the surface of the horrors that lay ahead. Each step we took seemed to draw more of them out of the shadows. They attacked with a frenzied desperation, their tentacles lashing out with deadly precision. We fought back with everything we had, our weapons and training the only things standing between us and certain death. As we moved through the facility, we began to uncover more evidence linking this place to Atlantis. Ancient texts etched into the walls spoke of a civilization that had harnessed incredible power, only to be destroyed by their own creations. Advanced technology lay in ruins around us, relics of a time when humanity had reached heights we could barely comprehend. The sense of discovery was thrilling, but it was tempered by the ever-present danger. Ryan and Ethan worked tirelessly, their hacking skills unlocking the secrets of the facility's systems. The data they uncovered painted a grim picture. The parasitic creatures had been created as a means of controlling and enhancing human hosts, a technology that had spiraled out of control and led to the downfall of Atlantis. "This is bigger than we thought," Ethan muttered, his eyes wide with realization. "If these things get out, it could be the end of us." The realization added a new urgency to our mission. We weren't just fighting for our own survival, we were fighting to prevent a global catastrophe. The weight of that responsibility pressed down on me, and I could see it in the eyes of my team as well. We had to find Clark and the primary parasitic creature before it was too late. The facility's layout became increasingly complex, with traps and barriers designed to keep intruders at bay. Sanchez's expertise in sabotage and lockpicking was invaluable here. She disarmed hidden traps and bypassed security measures with a deftness that left me in awe. Her calm under pressure was a steadying influence, a reminder that we had the skills to overcome any obstacle. Our progress was slow, but we finally reached the central chamber of the facility. It was a vast, cavernous space filled with ancient machinery and the faint glow of otherworldly light. At the center of the chamber stood Clark, now almost unrecognizable. The parasitic creature had fully integrated with his body, transforming him into a monstrous hybrid of man and beast. His eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and a sinister smile twisted his features. "Welcome to the end," Clark said, his voice a chilling blend of his own and the creature's. "You cannot stop us. We are the future." His words sent a shiver down my spine, but I steeled myself for what was to come. This was it, the final confrontation we had been preparing for. The battle that followed was nothing short of apocalyptic. Clark and the creatures fought with a ferocity that defied belief. The SEAL team members, Rusty, O'Neill, Parker, Connor, Jackson, and Murphy, held their ground with remarkable bravery. Their coordinated efforts and tactical expertise were crucial in holding back the tide of horrors. Rusty and O'Neill, with their precise marksmanship, took down creature after creature, while Jackson and Murphy used their brute strength to keep the enemies at bay. Sanchez and I focused on Clark. He was stronger, faster, and more dangerous than ever before. The creature's influence had turned him into a near-perfect killing machine. We moved as one, our training and instincts guiding us through the chaos. Every strike, every shot had to be perfect. There was no room for error. In the midst of the battle, I faced an internal struggle. The loss of our comrades weighed heavily on me, and the burden of leadership felt almost unbearable. But Sanchez was there, her presence a beacon of hope. Together, we fought with everything we had, driven by a shared determination to see this mission through. As the battle raged on, we began to gain the upper hand. Our combined efforts pushed Clark to his limits. In a moment of desperation, I delivered a strike that sent him staggering. Sanchez moved in, using her expertise in poisons to weaken the parasitic creature. With a final, coordinated effort, we delivered the killing blow. Clark fell, and with him, the remaining creatures shrieked and writhed, their connection to their master severed. The chamber fell silent, the only sound the heavy breathing of my team. We had done it. The threat was neutralized, but the cost had been high. We took a moment to gather ourselves, the reality of our victory sinking in. There was still much to do, but for now, we allowed ourselves a moment of respite. With the facility secured, we began the painstaking task of cataloging the artifacts and data we had found. There was so much to learn, and the implications of our discovery were profound. But for now, we had earned a moment of peace. The desert outside was still and quiet, the stars above bearing silent witness to our triumph. We had faced the heart of darkness and emerged victorious, our bond as a team stronger than ever. The journey back to our base camp was solemn, the weight of our recent battles heavy on our shoulders. We had faced death and darkness, and though we had emerged victorious, the scars, both seen and unseen, ran deep. The ancient facility held secrets we had yet to fully uncover, but for now, the immediate threat was neutralized. We took solace in our camaraderie, each of us drawing strength from the knowledge that we had stood together in the face of unimaginable horror. Our reprieve was short-lived. As we gathered our equipment and prepared to return to the nearest town for extraction, Ryan's voice broke through the static of our comms. "We've got movement," he said, his tone urgent. "Clark's backup is incoming. Looks like they're making a final push." The parasitic creatures were relentless, and it seemed they had one last card to play. We quickly regrouped, our makeshift camp transforming into a defensive stronghold. The SEAL team members, seasoned and unflinching, took up strategic positions around the perimeter. Rusty and O'Neill readied their sniper rifles, their eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of the approaching threat. Jackson and Murphy set up the heavy machine guns, their expressions grim and determined. Sanchez and I stood at the center, ready to direct our forces and face whatever came our way. The first wave hit us just as the sun began to dip below the horizon. The creatures moved with a terrifying speed and coordination, their screeches echoing through the desert air. Rusty and O'Neill fired in unison, their bullets finding their marks with deadly precision. The initial surge was repelled, but we knew it was only the beginning. Clark's backup proved to be even more formidable than we had anticipated. These were not just mindless drones, but highly organized units, enhanced by the parasitic creatures. Their tactics were sophisticated, exploiting every weakness in our defenses. The battle was fierce, with both sides sustaining heavy losses. The sand around us turned dark with the ichor of fallen parasites and the blood of brave men and women. In the midst of the chaos, Clark reappeared, his body a twisted amalgamation of human and parasite. He moved with an unnatural grace, his attacks precise and devastating. It took everything we had to hold our ground against him. Sanchez and I coordinated our efforts, using our combined skills to anticipate and counter his moves. The SEAL team provided crucial support, their disciplined fire creating openings for us to exploit. The battle reached its zenith in a storm of violence and determination. Clark, driven by the parasitic creature's will, pushed us to our limits, but in that crucible of combat, we found our strength. Marcus, his immense strength a bulwark against the onslaught, tackled Clark with a force that shook the ground. This gave Sanchez and me the opening we needed. Moving with practiced precision, Sanchez administered a dose of her most potent poison directly into the creature's vulnerable flesh. Clark's resistance weakened, and with a final desperate effort, I delivered a blow that severed the connection between man and monster. The parasitic creature shrieked and writhed, its grip on Clark's mind and body finally broken. The remaining creatures, sensing their master's defeat, fled into the darkness of the desert, leaving us battered but victorious. In the aftermath, the desert was eerily quiet. We surveyed the battlefield, the reality of our victory sinking in. Clark lay at our feet, no longer a puppet of the parasitic horror, but a man finally at peace. We took a moment to honor the fallen, those who had given their lives to ensure our victory. Their sacrifice would not be forgotten. With the immediate threat neutralized, we turned our attention to securing the facility. The artifacts and data we had uncovered were priceless, holding the key to understanding and potentially preventing future parasitic outbreaks. Ryan and Ethan worked tirelessly, their hacking skills unlocking more secrets with each passing hour. The ancient technology, combined with our modern understanding, promised new insights into the parasitic threat and how to combat it. As we prepared to leave the desert, a sense of resolve settled over us. We had faced the heart of darkness and emerged stronger. The bond between us, forged in the fires of battle, was unbreakable. Sanchez and I, in particular, had grown closer, our shared experiences deepening our connection. We knew that our journey was far from over, but together, we were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Our extraction went smoothly. the desert receding into the distance as we flew back to our outpost in Barcelona. There we would debrief and plan our next steps, armed with the knowledge we had gained and the determination to see this mission through to the end. The parasitic threat was far from vanquished, but we had taken a crucial step forward. The world was a little safer, and for now, that was enough. Back at our outpost, we allowed ourselves a brief moment of rest. The battle had been won, but the war was ongoing. As we looked out over the city, the lights twinkling in the night, we felt a renewed sense of purpose. We had faced the abyss and had not faltered. And as long as we stood together, we knew we could overcome any darkness. Back in Barcelona, the reality of our ordeal in the Sahara began to sink in. We were home, but the memories of the battle and the faces of those we had lost haunted us. The outpost, usually a hive of activity, was quieter now, each of us processing our grief in our own way. We gathered in the common room for a somber debriefing, Alex's face on the screen, his expression mirroring our own exhaustion. "We did it," Alex began, his voice steady but tinged with sadness. "But the cost was high. We need to honor our fallen comrades." We all nodded, the weight of his words heavy in the room. We shared stories and memories, each tale a tribute to the bravery and sacrifice of those who had given their lives. It was a cathartic process, reminding us of the strength of our bond and the importance of our mission. The next day, we held a memorial service. It was a simple ceremony, but deeply moving. We stood together, the remaining members of our unit, paying our respects to the fallen. Jack delivered a heartfelt speech, his voice breaking as he spoke of the courage and camaraderie that had defined our team. "They were more than just soldiers," he said. "They were family, and we will carry their memory with us, always." After the service, we gathered in the briefing room to discuss our next steps. The artifacts and data we had retrieved from the facility in the Sahara were already yielding valuable insights. Ryan and Ethan had been working around the clock, their faces drawn with fatigue, but lit with the excitement of discovery. "We found references to other facilities," Ryan explained, pointing to a map on the screen. "There are more out there, and they could hold the key to understanding the full scope of the parasitic threat." Alex nodded. "We need to stay vigilant. The battle may be over, but the war is far from won. We have to be ready for whatever comes next." His words resonated with us all. We knew that our fight was far from over, but we were prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The mission had taken its toll, but it had also strengthened our resolve. In the weeks that followed, we focused on analyzing the artifacts and data. The facility's technology was advanced, but also incredibly old. Sanchez and I spent hours poring over ancient texts and deciphering cryptic diagrams. It was painstaking work, but each discovery brought us closer to understanding the nature of the parasitic creatures and how to combat them. Amidst the research and planning, Sanchez and I found moments of solace in each other's company. Our bond had grown stronger during the mission, and now, back in the relative safety of our outpost, we allowed ourselves to explore the depth of our connection. We spent evenings walking through the quiet streets of Barcelona, sharing stories and dreams, finding comfort in the simplicity of being together. One evening, as we watched the sunset over the city, Sanchez turned to me, her eyes reflecting the golden light. "What do you think is next for us?" she asked, her voice soft but steady. I took her hand, feeling the warmth of her touch. "Whatever it is," I replied, "we'll face it together. We've been through too much to let anything tear us apart now." Our newfound closeness brought a sense of balance to our lives. We were still soldiers, committed to our mission, but we were also more than that. We were partners, drawn together by the trials we had faced and the love we had found amidst the chaos. It gave us strength and a reason to keep fighting. As our research progressed, we uncovered more about the parasitic creatures. They were not just a threat to our team, but to the entire world. The ancient technology hinted at methods to control or even eradicate the parasites, But it was clear that we were only beginning to scratch the surface of this vast mystery. Each new piece of information was a step closer to preventing another outbreak, and possibly saving countless lives. Our efforts were not without their challenges. The deeper we delved into the ancient texts and technologies, the more complex and dangerous our task became. But we were undeterred. The memory of our fallen comrades drove us forward, their sacrifice a constant reminder of what was at stake. We owed it to them, and to the world, to see this mission through to the end. As we prepared for our next mission, the sense of unity within our team was palpable. We had faced the heart of darkness and emerged stronger. The parasitic threat was still out there, but we were ready to confront it head-on. With Sanchez by my side and our team standing strong, I knew we could overcome any obstacle. The war was far from over, but we were ready for whatever came next. Together, we would continue the fight, driven by the hope of a future free from the shadow of the parasitic horror. The weeks following our return from the Sahara were a whirlwind of activity. Our findings had attracted the attention of various government agencies and scientific bodies. Meetings, briefings, and strategy sessions filled our days, each one underscoring the significance of what we had uncovered. Yet, amidst the frenetic pace, Sanchez and I found time for ourselves, a precious interlude in our otherwise chaotic lives. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across Barcelona, Sanchez and I decided to take a break from the relentless pace. We strolled along the beach, the sound of the waves a soothing counterpoint to the tension that had built up over the past months. "We deserve a proper break," she said, her eyes reflecting the fading light. "How about a honeymoon?" Her suggestion caught me off guard, but in the best possible way. The idea of a honeymoon, combining our love for adventure with a much-needed respite, was perfect. "Let's do it," I agreed, smiling. "But where to?" Sanchez grinned. "Somewhere we can explore and relax. Maybe the Greek islands. There's history, beauty, and plenty of places to disappear for a while." The thought of exploring ancient ruins, swimming in crystal-clear waters, and simply being together without the specter of parasitic horrors hanging over us was incredibly appealing. We started planning, our excitement a welcome distraction from the intensity of our work. It was a promise of normalcy, a glimpse of a life beyond the constant battles and high stakes. Back at our outpost, the team was supportive. They knew how much we needed this break, and their encouragement meant the world to us. Ryan and Ethan even offered to handle our duties while we were away. "We've got this," Ryan assured us. "You two go enjoy yourselves and come back refreshed." Before we could embark on our honeymoon, there was still work to be done. The artifacts and data we had retrieved from the Sahara continued to reveal new secrets. Among the most significant discoveries was a map, ancient and worn, detailing the locations of other potential facilities around the world. Each marked site represented a possible threat, but also an opportunity to learn more about the parasitic creatures and how to stop them. One evening, as we were packing for our trip, Ethan burst into the room, his face alight with excitement. "You need to see this," he said, pulling us toward the lab. On his computer screen was a detailed analysis of one of the artifacts. "It's a kind of beacon," he explained. "If we can activate it, we might be able to track other parasitic colonies or even disrupt their communication." The implications were staggering. This beacon could be a game changer, a way to stay one step ahead of the parasitic threat. It was a reminder that our work was far from over, but it also underscored the importance of taking a break, recharging, and coming back stronger. We entrusted the beacon project to Ethan and Ryan, confident in their ability to make progress while we were away. Our honeymoon was everything we hoped it would be. The Greek islands were a paradise, a world away from the darkness we had faced. We explored ancient ruins, swam in the warm, azure waters, and indulged in the simple pleasures of life. For a brief time, we allowed ourselves to forget about the dangers lurking in the shadows. It was a chance to reconnect, to strengthen our bond, and find joy in each other's company. Sitting on a secluded beach one evening, Sanchez and I talked about our future. "What do you think comes next?" she asked, her head resting on my shoulder. "We've uncovered so much, but there's still so much we don't know." I thought about her question, the enormity of our mission weighing on my mind. "We keep fighting," I replied. "But we also take moments like this to remind ourselves why we fight. For each other, for the world. We can't lose sight of that." Our return to Barcelona was bittersweet. We had tasted normalcy, but we knew it was time to dive back into our mission. The team welcomed us back with open arms, and we quickly settled into the rhythm of our work. The Beacon project was progressing well, and the map of potential facilities offered new avenues of exploration. With renewed energy and a deepened bond, Sanchez and I led the team into the next phase of our mission. We were no longer just reacting to threats. We were proactively seeking out and neutralizing them. The discoveries we made along the way were groundbreaking, each one bringing us closer to understanding and ultimately defeating the parasitic creatures. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, we faced new challenges and dangers. But the bond we had forged, the love and respect we shared, gave us the strength to keep going. We were more than just soldiers on a mission. We were partners in every sense of the word. The war was far from over, but we faced it together, with hope and determination. The darkness still loomed, but as long as we had each other, we knew we could face any challenge that came our way. Our journey was just beginning, and we were ready for whatever came next.